That I'm shaking hands continuously. I was at a hospital the other night where I think there were actually a few coronavirus patients, and I shook hands with everybody.
At the time, people thought he was an idiot then for shaking hands with infected people, but he was also thinking of injecting himself with the coronavirus on live TV to show it wasn't a threat.
That the Prime Minister suggested to senior civil servants and advisers that he wanted to be injected with COVID-19 on television to demonstrate to the public that it did not pose a threat. And then you say that you appreciate on reflection that those were unhelpful comments, but they were made at a time of high stress and limited understanding of what lay ahead. Of course, you weren't able to know, neither was Mr. Johnson, everything that would develop over the following weeks and months.
It's not surprising. We all know of Boris's narcissistic traits, and this is a classic move from somebody who would have wanted all eyes on him. Attention outweighing safety.
And I continue to shake hands, and I think it's very important that we, people obviously can make up their own minds. I think that Matt has said that people must make up their own minds, but...
You've read out the statement there. On the advice of the doctor, the Prime Minister has gone to hospital for tests. We saw him, didn't we, in that video address last week. He didn't look that well.
So it wasn't surprising that Johnson ended up in hospital, but it was the reckless nature that is being made clear at the COVID inquiry that makes this all very concerning, because he was in charge of us, the nation.
Lord Lister, but I just want to take you back to what you tell us that Mr. Johnson said, that he wanted to be injected with COVID-19 to demonstrate to the public that it didn't pose a threat. It did pose a threat, didn't it?
I've got to go back again. It was not a. We were. I'm a little bit uncertain of timings of some of these things, but it was before the Italian situation had really become apparent to everybody. It was a time when COVID was not seen as being the serious disease it subsequently became, or was seen to be. It was a moment in time. I think it was an unfortunate comment, but I think when you take it into context, out of context like now, and in the timing, it was just an unfortunate comment.
I think the scientific evidence is, well, I'll hand over to the experts, but our judgment is wash. Washing your hands is the crucial thing.
That his condition has worsened. Now they have gone to great odds to say that this is a precaution should he require ventilation to aid his recovery. So that is slightly good news that he's not currently being ventilated, but it is, we had been told that he'd been put into hospital on Sunday as a precaution because he had this persistent high fever.
This cross-examination of Edward Udney Lister, the former Chief of Staff at Number 10, highlights the ridiculous ideas going through Johnson's head.
Well, I understand that's what how you regard it, Lord Lister, but I do want to press you a little. Do you think then that it wasn't necessarily made at the same time as the chickenpox parties?
I really am not sure. I cannot answer that question.
No. Well, even if it had been made some time earlier, it had been known for many weeks by that stage, or it was known for many weeks before then, that COVID was a disease which would kill many of the people who caught it. So surely the Prime Minister wouldn't want to be telling the British public that it didn't pose a threat.
But I come back to, if I may, in answer to your question, this is not that dissimilar to the situation we'd had with things like SARS, where it had been a killer disease, but it had been a disease which had not transmitted itself to Europe. We had not reached us. And we were still living in the forlorn hope, as it turned out, that it wasn't going to come.
What happens now is that they will monitor his condition very carefully. He will be near all the machines you need, the ventilators, the kidney support machine, and so on.
There is a difference, but I mean, I don't think anyone injected themselves live on television with SARS, Lord Lister, nor would they have been well advised to do so.
I fully accept it's a comment that shouldn't have been made, but it was made at the heat of a moment. That's all.
And Americans are all praying for his recovery. He's been a really good friend. He's been really something very special, strong, resolute, doesn't quit, doesn't give up.
Do you think, whenever he made this comment, and obviously this is something we can ask him, but you've raised this, so I'd like your own view about this. Do you think that Mr. Johnson did actually think not only that the country was well equipped to deal with the disease and that there were systems and plans in place, but that actually even more fundamentally, it wasn't really a dangerous disease at all?
I do underline the point I made earlier. I'm not sure of the timing of these things, but my memory is that at that stage, it was not seen as the disease, the seriousness that it became apparent later on. We're right at the beginning of this. It hadn't really hit Europe. It was still very, very new.
Click here for some more COVID inquiry.